Welcome back to Get It Games Fan TV. How are we all getting on? How is the form? And in this video, we're going to be discussing are Dublin in relegation trouble. After two games, it's not looking too good for Dublin. Defeats to Donegal, defeats to Mayo. And do you know what? I haven't really had a chance to actually make a video on either one of the games, to be honest with you, because the Donegal game I was at, but I was out after it. And then so much kind of happened after that game with the other game. So there was no real kind of point in going back to that match. And then obviously yesterday's game versus Mayo wasn't on TV and I wasn't at the game. And the radio broke for the first half. So I didn't really get to know too much about the game. But I have seen the highlights back and read various different match reports. Did listen to the second half of the game, to be fair. So I think I can, kind of give more of an opinion on that game as of now. But look, the point of this video really isn't to discuss too much about the game yesterday and kind of review the game. I think it's more to discuss Dublin football. We're going to be listening to a clip from Ger Brennan as well, who I think spoke and made some very interesting points in his post-match press conference yesterday. Certainly some damning things in there as well. And discussing, whether Dublin are in trouble. Are they in danger of relegation? Look, the first thing I should say is that I did actually predict Dublin to lose to Donegal and to Mayo in the opening games. I always felt like we would start slow. I always felt like with a new manager coming in, it would take a bit of time before it really, really clicks. And I knew there wouldn't be certain players available. Con was available on the first game, didn't play yesterday. And that was swapped with Cormac Costello, who didn't play in the first game, but played yesterday. So I knew there was going to be rotation and everything else. The first game against Donegal, I think, went the way I expected it to go, really, in the sense that Donegal were always just going to be that bit better, a bit stronger, and especially around the middle and in terms of control and everything else. The game yesterday was quite worrying, though. There's no question about it. I did expect Mayo to win the game, but I didn't think it would be as convincing as it was. There is that point of worth mentioning that Sean McMahon's red card, which, from looking at various clips, does seem very harsh, if I'm being entirely honest. But look, Mayo might have won the game anyway. They had a lead at that stage, so who knows? And coincidentally, Dublin actually played a lot better when they went down to 14 men. They got a goal very shortly after that, so a little bit unusual in regards to that. But look, if we do look at the league table in terms of where it leaves Dublin as of right now, so as we have a bit more of a look there, as we can see, Dublin down in the bottom two. This image is taken from @GA League Tables. So do make sure to check them out on Twitter when you get a chance. So it's not been a good start. Down near the bottom, second from bottom with 0 points. You look at the score difference as well, which is in the negative. The game next, though, is absolutely huge. Dublin play Monaghan in a few weeks' time on Valentine's Day. And this image here is taken from you boys in blue on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it these days. So that next game there versus Monaghan, 14th of February, 7 p.m. Huge game from a Dublin perspective, because after that you play Kerry. And look, in my predictions video, I predicted Dublin to beat Kerry because we do have a habit of beating them in the league in recent seasons, and it might be a game maybe where we turn up and do it. Having watched how the league has started so far, I would very much change my mind in regards to that. I think the idea of us beating Kerry, even the Kerry team that played yesterday, that had multiple changes and everything else, I still don't think we would beat that team at this current moment in time. So, that's probably going to be defeat. Roscommon away. Look, we do have a good record against Roscommon in recent years. I actually can't remember the last time they beat us, to be honest with you. So we should go and win that, in my opinion. Away from home might be a bit of a tricky game. Then you're looking at Armagh and Galway and you're thinking, well, Armagh do have the game coming up against Tyrone at the start of the league. As a Dublin fan, you know what we actually want? Though? We want Armagh to have the points on the board by the time they play that game. And actually them losing to Galway might have been a bad thing for us, because we want Armagh to have points on the board, so that maybe they just change their team a little bit when they come to Croke Park, because there's no question, if Armagh play at their absolute best and have their best team available, they beat us. There's no question about that. And then Galway away on the final day is very interesting as well, because Galway haven't looked great either, but they do have a win on the board, and that, without question, is bound to give them a little bit of confidence. So, Dublin are, at the moment, I still think we'll be okay. I still think we'll be fine. I don't think it's I have seen some of the comments on Twitter and TikTok and everything else, which yeah, there can be a lot of abuse and a lot of things that goes there at the best of times. But I've seen a lot of it directed towards the Dublin footballers after the opening 2 games, even from Dublin fans, mostly Dublin fans, actually, to be fair. There's been banter from rival fans, but I would expect that. But yeah, I don't really agree with that, to be honest. I think, opening 2 games, a lot of changes, new players coming in, always going to take a bit of time to adapt and get used to a new manager and a new style. And realistically as well, tough fixtures to start with. Donegal at home, the side beaten in the All-Ireland final last year, that always start the league very strong, have so much wrongs to right. And then Mayo, who are flying. And every time Mayo get a new manager, we know that they start very, very well. And it was always going to be tough going to Castlebar, where Mayo were going to be bang up for it. So, no cause for panic stations as of yet. The next game, though, is huge versus Monaghan, because need to win that game. And there is a comment here from Dane who says a spell in Division 2 might do the Dubs some good. Do you know what? In previous, it's like we have seen a lot of teams go down to Division 2, and it's been it's actually benefited them. Dublin won the All-Ireland while playing in Division 2 a couple of years ago. Armagh have done the same. A lot of teams have done well from Division 2. Do you know, I think Tyrone got to an All-Ireland final, or they might have won the All-Ireland the year they were relegated as well from Division 2, or they might have been promoted from Division 2. I can't remember. So it has happened quite a lot in recent seasons. There has been a lot of teams who've been in Division 2 where it has actually benefited them. What I would say, however, though, is there is, a lot of the newer lads that are coming into the Dublin team. There is, without being disrespectful, there is a quality drop. There's no doubt about it. You can see it. I've seen it in the O'Byrne Cup. The new players that are coming into the team are nowhere near the levels of the Dublin team of the past, of even a couple of years ago, in my opinion. You go down to Division 2, maybe then a few more might decide to step away. Maybe Kilkenny decides to step away, or a Costello or a Con O'Callaghan. And then I do actually worry that Dublin could actually get stuck in Division 2 or even regress. Do you know what I mean? I don't actually think it's that we just come straight back up, do you know, that way. I don't think it's, I don't know if my internet's causing havoc there, but I don't think it's an absolute given that we come straight back. You've seen it even at the moment with Tyrone and Derry. Even Tyrone, like 1 point after 2 games in a division where everyone expected them to get promoted. So, we are still here. I think. Jordan Kieran says from Mayo and Castlebar, I know Dublin will get good, but won't be dominant, as they won't win Sam for a long time after they lost all those players to retirement. Mayo are coming strong. Mayo are also preparing to win Connacht and Sam Maguire under Andy Moran. So it'll be Andy Moran's 2nd or 3rd year before he wins it. Hello, the best YouTube channel. Yeah, cheers very much, mate. I very much appreciate those comments there. And yeah, even looking at some of the scores yesterday. Apologies, folks, about the old internet there. I need to get a new internet. There's no question about that, but we should be okay now. But yeah, looking at the team there on the screen, Cormac Costello with 5 points, Paddy Small. Look, there is players to still come back in. There's Kieran Kilkenny who needs to come back in the side. Con didn't play yesterday. He was on the bench. So there is still players that have to come back into this Dublin side. Luke Breathnach was it's been a fresher breath there so far for Dublin. Sean Bugler came off the bench. So look, there is players who do still need to come back from a Dublin perspective, but looking at what Ger Brennan was saying yesterday, as a matter of fact, in his post-match interview, and I did find this to be a little bit interesting. So we might actually even listen to what he has to say here, because yeah, Ger Brennan he was basically asked about some of the older players, some of the more experienced players coming back in, and it's fair to say he actually wasn't that complimentary of them, which was interesting.
I would suggest it's probably some of our fellas who've been around the block, Tommy, that
Yeah, I did think that was interesting as well, to be fair, in regards to some of the older players and everything else that goes with it. So, look, I would be curious to know people's opinions. Look, overall, like personally, I still think Dublin will be okay in terms of relegation. When we look at the league table there, down near the bottom two, as it stands right now, with Monaghan having a significantly worse score difference than us. But that next game on the 14th of February is absolutely huge from a Dublin perspective, because I think if they do lose that, I think they will be down, to be honest with you. I couldn't see us turning around. I think, look, 6 points is usually enough in most seasons. And again, if we look at those fixtures there, I can see Dublin getting 6 points from them. But if we lose to Monaghan, then I think it's curtains, to be honest with you, because I couldn't see us then going and beating Kerry. Roscommon away as well, like especially if we lose the opening 4 games, you know what I mean? You're just up against it really after that. So it's going to be tough. But what I would say to fellow Dublin fans, look, it isn't panic stations just yet. I don't think personally. There's a lot of changes, new players coming into the team. The opening 2 games were always going to be tough. But I think what matters now is the next game versus Monaghan. I know Monaghan have had a very good record against us in the league in recent years. But we need to put that to bed. We need to treat this like a championship game, because, look, Dublin could go down to Division 2 and they could just bounce straight back up. They could be fine. But there is that risk there with some of the players that are coming through. I don't think it's the same as when we were in Division 2 a couple of years ago, personally. So that's why I think it's important for Dublin not to go down. But, look, let me know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments below. Overall, from a Dublin perspective yesterday, disappointing. Look, fair play to Mayo, and we'll speak about them in more detail in other videos. This is more so to focus in on Dublin. They're looking very good. They're looking very strong, to be fair, and take nothing away from them yesterday. Well-deserved victory and well-deserved win as well. So, yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in. Hit the like button and subscribe if you could, and we will speak to you all again soon.